start with this slide, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for listening, guys, being here. My name is Arend van Campen, Dutchman, finalizing my PhD on this subject. A theory, mathematically sound, I find now, a theory of functionality, a law of functionality, I called it, because it appears that the law is unrelenting. It works. So because of the research behind it is based on the question, what are the conditions and the criteria for and of functionality of living systems? Now, you are alive, I'm alive, everybody's alive. Living systems, not just persons, but also the nature, the universe, the fauna, the flora, they all seem to have one thing in common, at least the basic thing, and they all cannot function without information. So everything is information based. Everything needs to communicate. Everything needs to share information through various, natural systems. So the information is crucial, and we can now say without information, nothing functions. I'll explain why. You still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, Van Campen's law, I named it Van Campen's law because I did not want to get it stolen, you know? Because I thought it was, I needed to prevent plagiarism, because also my stuff for my work already been plagiarized by some people. So I thought I'll give it my own name. So it's out in the open there. Now, I wrote just a paper in December by a peer-reviewed paper. You can download it from the IPI Institute, the Institute of Information Physics. Maybe you already noticed it, but there's the paper there written. Now, Van Campen functionality provides a powerful framework for predicting function or malfunction. By addressing the imbalance between mass, information, and reality, we can reduce the probability of dysfunctionality and mitigate externalities. Now, externalities, you all know what it is. They are collateral damage. We don't want to have any system that man makes that causes collateral damage. In other words, collateral damage is also expressed as negative interdependent systems, meaning that, for example, I have a goal and I can only reach that goal if you can't. Or I can create that, for example, a political goal there only when the suffering of a lot of people is the externality. This is non-sustainable, non-viable, as you probably understand. Now, I use cybernetics, of course, to get where I want to be, because feedback mechanisms are information mechanisms. You all know that. I don't need to explain cybernetics to you. So it's important that we have optimal information to reach our goal. Also, with that information, we must also inform ourselves if, for example, a system goes into chaos. We call this entropy. Entropy, of course, has different interpretations, different meanings, and it's quite a difficult subject. I write about it much more in depth in my paper. But for the time being, we can focus on entropy being the information we do not have or do not use. That is cybernetically sound. And then you can understand that if we don't have information we have and we don't use it, or we ignore it, we cannot correct our way to reach a goal, like feedback mechanisms. So information is shortage or the information we don't have or use. This is a law of physics and law of information physics, because it's based upon the Shannon theory of information and on the IBM engineer who says that information is physical. It's a physical entity. It's a resource. It's not just an email or a message. It is physical. Also, information is physically being proven by Dr. Vopson in England, who created on the right side the mass equivalence, energy equivalence information principle. Those three lines mean they are equivalent. Not the equal sign, but the equivalent sign. You see it on the right part of the slide. So what we have to do is in the middle, like von Förster said, always ask to try to add maximum number of questions, so you will have the maximum number of choices. Now the mass equivalence, energy equivalence information principle is a fundamental change in the perception of the old ways that we all talk about, just about mass and energy, like Einstein did. I even suggest that we can now change the Einstein's equation for relativity by including the I for information. Because fundamentally, information is the starting point for everything. Not just in physical way, but also in human way, because everything we know, we learn, and we see comes into us as information. And with the information, directly, our systems, our physical systems start to use energy. So the information energy equivalence changes our mass directly, us as beings. So I created these boundaries, and the equation up there I'll explain in a moment. But when we have a malfunctioning system, right? So if you follow the feedback lines, and these red lines here, these red lines are the boundaries of functionality. So within these lines, within this area, systems work. When the information goes out of those boundaries of functionality, you are coming into the area of entropy, disorder, uncertainty. So if we have a system that is based upon the exceeding the lines, the boundaries of functionality, it cannot work anymore. It will not function. So disorder, destructive, non-adaptive, non-controllable entropy. And this boundary of functionality I call, in Dutch, it's called the Dutch word, realiteit. I would, in English, realimitation. So we have reality, the R in this equation, the R up there, is the boundary for functionality, the limits of reality, realimitait. So when a system is non-viable, it trespasses those boundaries. And we know, because we are people, we already know when we lie, we don't want to tell the truth, the system control is impossible. And the goal you seek will be very difficult to obtain, because you've been basically lying to get what you don't deserve. When we go to the next slide, we say that the Van Campen's law is viable, because now we use mass plus information within the boundaries of this R, reality, and then this is the J is the a symbol for entropy, and the probability is more than zero of negentropy, negentropy meaning order. So I'll explain it in the next slide a little bit more in depth. So you see the functionality now is within those boundaries. Information flows all the time, around, but within the boundaries of functionality, within the realimitait, therefore the system functions, is viable. Okay, far so good? All right, good. So now this is a little bit more technical, perhaps. I'll show you, I'll walk you through this slide. So we have the equation algorithm, I call it, mass minus information beyond reality, beyond realimitait, always gets you this symbol. Delta S is the symbol for entropy. So the entropy probability will be larger than 0, probably 1, but I'll keep it very, I'll be very careful not to, but the probability will be above 0. When entropy disorder increases due to an imbalance between mass, information, energy, and reality, we have this dysfunctionality. The other way, probability functional, is the other one. Mass plus information, maximum information, within the reality, or realiteit, is negentropy, negative entropy, probability above 0. So where negentropy order increases due to an equilibrium between mass, information, energy, and reality. Understanding the equations, if mass minus information exceeds reality, the system becomes dysfunctional, leading to increased entropy disorder. Collateral damage externalities can be expected because energy is dissipated. Now, this has to do with thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be destructed or created. Second law is that entropy always increases, never decreases. These are two laws of thermodynamics. We have to think about those because the information, energy, and mass interconnection, of course, the relationship with reality means that if we miss information, we miss energy. Energy will be dissipated, meaning it will be squandered somewhere, but it's not available here anymore to be used. So this is a relationship. It's very important that we see, okay, we do not have the information, therefore we cannot have the energy to do the thing. The other way, if we have information, sufficient information, we will have the information and the energy, because then the energy is conserved, like the first law of thermodynamics says. So relationship thermodynamics, cybernetics, biology, DNA, everything comes down to this equivalence of mass, energy, and information. And we, as persons, we have to deal and live in a agreed reality. You know, we cannot say I can fly, I can jump from my building and I fly. I cannot. I cannot walk through this door behind me which is closed. I need to open it first. Basically, information is therefore always preceding everything else. Think about it. Okay. Now, what we've been doing the last few weeks now is we are testing the the equations by AI to test, and I say analyze functionality, and you see here in red anything, right? Anything meaning you can test if the plans of Trump will succeed. You can test if the energy transition is feasible. You can test if the United States Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved, and so on, by this algorithm. So this is the input. So you use this text to input in the AI system and ask that questions, analyze something you like to analyze. And then, amazingly, really, AI, chatbot, ChatGPT, or DeepSeek will give you an answer that is very useful. And the usefulness is that we are increasing through AI the quantity and the quality of information in 20 seconds that we would need like a half a day for to get it, to collect it. So the information that is therefore increased to make better choices, and that is the whole idea for this. So we can increase the input through AI. You can do it yourself as well without AI, but as long as you maximize the number of choices and then maximize the number of questions. So when you get this text, I made it into a text for this functionality. And then it gives you here, for example, the system becomes dysfunctional, leading to increased entropy. Collateral damage will be caused because energy is dissipated. And what I've added list also, the system will list then the potential externalities. So you can already see that AI synthesizes the externalities expected from the dysfunctionality of any system. And then we have the other one, the functionality. We can do the same thing, but now we can say, okay, list solutions, see, list suggestions. How can we do better? Which helps us a lot because, again, it gives you more options that you may not have thought about, because AI is able to access in 20 seconds a vast number of information we could not do ourselves. So this is very, very useful to make predictions. Then we, in my business, you know, I train oil people worldwide. I still do that. I'm almost retired, but I still do that. So we tested the information quantities in 5 different oil terminals. We tested 68 people trained 68. The first course test 37%. The second course test 76%. An average information growth on the whole group was 32% information growth. Now, when I use this information by AI and I'm asking, you know, what is the risk of not having enough information to run an oil terminal, right? The AI comes down with, well, these are the risks and this you should do to mitigate those risks. So it's become a really, really powerful tool to prevent risk. And I'm just talking to my clients now to implement this, because when you run not a system only on rules or regulation, but on information, then you have the maximum best governance and management system you can imagine. But people are not aware that that information is physical, that information is equivalent to energy and mass. This is the perception problem we talk about, and the perception problem that Dr. Fritjof Capra, the famous physicist who wrote the Tao of physics, you know, I'm in contact with, told me. So we have a perception problem of what reality is and how reality functions. Therefore, crazy plans like Trump and Brussels and all these people who have crazy plans. But an ideology, for example, is an idea not based upon on optimal information, but only dependent on the suppression of information, right? So it cannot ever work and only causes externalities. So my last slide is the only viable form of government is that a government, democracy is not the one, aristocracy is not the one, meritocracy is not the one, and so on. The only one that I call is called noticracy. Noticracy meaning Latin notice. Notitia is Latin for information, and cracy is Greek for government, right? So noticracy is possible for any system, not just in government, but also in management, to steer with an optimal information quantity and quality. Now we can say here, for example, on the left, you say here, environmental damage, information deficit, and social cohesion disruption, cyber security threats, financial debt. All this stuff is running a dysfunctionality in government. But if we do not use information, we cannot ever hope to mitigate them or to solve them. So with information as a physical energy to do work, like in thermodynamics, we can do that. So a government or any management system must always have 3 things as a priority in mind. That is, their goal is not to harm life, well-being, social cohesion, and the environment. So 3 goals that would be chosen by a government, by a management group, by a company, and they align every decision according those lines, and then we can solve environmental problems, social cohesion problems, and so on. I know that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Okay, thank you.